Thanks for tuning in to the Loser Kid Pinball Podcast. We're on episode 166. I am Josh Roop. With me, my co-captain,
Scott Larson.
And Scott, we have an awesome episode today. You and I are talking. We're going to talk about Kong and your visit up there. But before we get into that, if you want to buy King Kong, where are you getting yours from?
I'd contact Zach and Nicole Mini at Flipping Out Pinball. They legitimately can work a lot of deals for you. So it's great. Tell them we sent you. They'll be able to figure something out for great shipping, great pricing. And even if you're not looking for Kong, hey, if someone's unloading Godzilla and you want to pick up a used, they have used games, they have accessories for everything. So just contact them. They're always good friends. So we appreciate their support of the podcast.
And also, they do free shipping. At least they do it for us. So
shipping is usually still part of their package deal.
Yep.
And
on
so
Stearns,
right. And so that's something to consider. And not on all things. Like we still. Oh, by the way, I'm going to point out someone was blasting me on our reviews that I was hoarding games or something. I don't really understand. Maybe this person.
There was a troll.
Yeah, I don't know what they were saying. I was actually I was buying these for I bought 2 Medieval Madnesses, one for me and one for my friend who was buying that one. He's paying for that one. I'm not paying for it. And we bought 3 CCR upgrade kits. But again, all 3 of us have the game, so I don't really understand what they were thinking. But anyway,
you're being greedy. Greedy. It's
I'm buying full price stuff to use in my collection. Yeah, weird, huh?
You got officially banned from Pinball Kingdom because of it. The Pinball.
Oh no, yeah.
So anyway, you're no longer allowed.
I'm still buying stuff. So if you're still buying stuff, reach out to Zach and Nicole.
Oh, it's kind of hilarious. But before we get into Kong, one thing is Dennis and Zach talked on the last pinball show that they have officially disbanded the Pinball Network, or TPN for short. Go listen to the episode to get the kind of the full description on it. I just wanted to give some background. I don't know. I really enjoyed the Pinball Network. I think it's really cool what the creators of that were trying to do to help push and drive pinball content and help the community and the industry at large. I'm going to share the story. May it leaves it in the podcast. May it doesn't. I'll cut it out. But Scott, do you remember when they officially announced the Pinball Network?
Yeah, it was 8 months after we started. Really?
Yeah, 8 months or a year. It was
something along those lines. We were just cutting our teeth trying to be able to break into the pinball podcasting, because at the time it was interesting. We had a few other podcasts out there.
Yeah.
But it was right around the time that we decided to start, about 4 of them decided to retire.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see, okay, well, Josh and I are still going strong and interested in talking about pinball. So, when the Pinball Network announced, my theory is that they were just trying to get together a platform, kind of this analogy may or may not work, but think of like TBS or TNT or something like that. So if you're interested in basketball, there'll be tons of shows on basketball. If you're interested in pinball, there'll be tons of shows in pinball, and you just have one location to go for it. So that's my theory behind what was going on.
So they started slightly before COVID. So at this point, we'd already been doing a little over a year now.
Yeah. Okay.
We had people like Eric Minier, Keith Elwin, a handful of great interviews are under our belt. And it was funny because when they announced this, they never really talked to us about it. And I'm not gonna lie, I was actually offended that they didn't approach us. Granted, this is 5 years ago, Josh, and I have a lot more wisdom under my belt.
Oh, okay. I thought it was fine. I was we have our thing. So I never really thought about it.
I guess I had viewed it from a fact that there was a bunch of people that I felt were our friends.
Sure.
And it was kind of the friend club had started, right? And we weren't invited. But I quickly came to, because I talked to Zach behind the scenes about it, and that wasn't the case. He's you guys have already got an established brand. When you have Keith Elwin wearing your gear, on like a reveal stream of his pinball machine.
Sure.
He's like, I didn't feel like TPN had much to offer you guys. It was
And by the way, that we are flattered and grateful
yeah,
that he wears our stuff. So it's
yeah.
this is just a fun happenstance. Cool.
So it was more of a place to help those that wanted to get into podcasting, get into streaming,
Sure.
give them a platform to be seen and be heard. And one of the hurdles can be you do have to pay for like hosting, you have to pay for maybe for a website. That was all part of the package deal. Like there was nothing that cost to get you up and going with the Pinball Network. And so after like we sat down and we talked about it, I was like, oh, well, I got my pennies in a bunch for no odd reason. But, it's one of the great things about Zach is like, if I've ever had an issue with him, I just sit down and I talk with him. And Zach has been great to us over the years. There's been so many times that we're doing so well right now as Loser Kid because of some of the motivations he placed with us as our sponsor. And I just want to thank him personally because, man, he was one of the first people I reached out to after I did the pilot episode for Loser Kid, and I sent it to him and said, "Hey, I respect what you do with at the time was This Week in Pinball. What do you suggest?" And he actually suggested bringing on a co-captain, which ended up being Scott. So, if it wasn't for Zach, the Loser Kid today wouldn't probably exist in the form that it is right now. So, and even the Pinball Network brought us together with one of our best friends now, Triple Drain. And if you haven't subscribed to their new YouTube channel, go check them out. Since Pinball Network has disbanded, they had to start up their own channel, and they kind of reset in subs. And so, to get monetized by YouTube, you have to hit 1,000 subscribers. And so, go help them out. It would be awesome. But
so reach out. I am wearing the Triple Drain shirt today.
Yeah.
So if
I will tell you one funny story. I know that I don't think anyone knows except for maybe Scott. And I don't know if you even know the story. Do you remember when we had Martine on from 99% Invisible podcast?
Yeah. Yep. No, I remember him.
That podcast, is insanely huge, like millions and millions of subscribers. And they did an episode. If you haven't listened to it, I'd have to look up the episode numbers. But they did one on pinball. It was kind of a revisit of one they had already done before. But it had been so long since they'd done it. They were like, well, this is obviously exploded in the last decade. We should do an update. And so Martina had reached out to us because we had the connections in pinball. And he's like, you've obviously had Keith Elwin on. And so he wanted to interview Keith and Roger. And so we kind of did all those, right? And it was funny because like at the end of it, I asked him, I said, hey, you're obviously involved with a giant podcast, someone that is monetized very well and whatnot. What would you recommend to help us grow as Loser Kid? And he said, did you know that there is a network dedicated just to pinball called the Pinball Network? And I'm like, I did. And he's like, you should check them out. I think they could help grow your numbers.
Yeah.
If you go to them. And it just kind of made me chuckle because like knowing behind the scenes, like we've been best friends with Zach and Dennis and all those that started the Pinball Network. It just made me chuckle. And Grant, we did that episode a year or two ago.
Yeah.
So this
was
been
a while. Yeah.
Yeah. But
it shows that in the effort to bring people together for an entertainment purpose and trying to reach out, trying to give different shows with different styles a platform, then it allows people to find them. And especially when you're starting out, finding people and finding content is one of the hardest things to do.
It is.
Because like right now, we are lucky enough that over 7 years, we have at least developed some reputation. But in many ways, that's with a combination of hard work and luck.
Yeah.
That we were able to get a connection with people. And I don't know how other people can do a similar thing. Just because a lot of time it's timing, it's your content, it's your style, your perspective. And so I appreciate what they were trying to do. And it seems like it's at least accomplished many of the goals they set out to do. And it's time to, I guess, fold it and move on.
Yep. So I just want to say, like I said, I want to say thanks to Zach again. We've hit so many different milestones in this last 4 months because of some of the goals that we've put in place with Zach and whatnot. The one that I wanted to share, I shared this with you this week, Scott, was we have officially hit 28,000 listens in the last 28 days. That means Loser Kid on average is getting about 1,000 listens a day right now, whether it's being watching us on YouTube or listening to us via the podcast. And that doesn't include our shorts or anything like that. That is straight episodes.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just really cool how the YouTube went from on average a month with 1,700 views, and now we're over 10,000 views per month, and we haven't dipped underneath since. And now we're at 28,000 or 20 something thousand for YouTube. So,
And
yeah.
I will say that I appreciate that our show is in many ways it's kind of an imaginary show where a group of 3 people, and you're the invisible guest in our chat group. And we hope that when we're talking, and Josh and I are playing off each other, that there are things that you come up and say, "Whoa, I'm thinking of this," because that tells us that we're having a genuine conversation. And it's a conversation that you would have with other people who are, pinball people, because that's really how we connect. And it's one of our hobbies. We're husbands and fathers. That's the tied for first in our priority list in life. And this is a great distraction for us to be able to still communicate with other people on something that, in the grand scheme of things, doesn't hold a candle to those primary goals, but it keeps me balanced. So I appreciate that.
Definitely. Well, let's get to you got to go to see King Kong released, man.
I do want to say I got some high tops.
Oh, you
So
did?
You guys can see. Yep.
I did too. I don't have mine with me. I got the grays. You got the teals.
No, I got the teal ones. They look really good. So
yeah,
I'm excited. But yes. So that was in Silver Ball Swag, and Josh is wearing one of our 8-bit shirts.
Yep.
So it's Silver Ball Swag still.
Well, you're wearing the Loser Kid Attacks.
Oh yeah, I'm using Loser Kid Attacks. We're swagging everything up today.
So Glenn Wechter, friend of the podcast, has deemed our shoes. This is what he named them, is the Losers.
Yeah, that's
love
awesome.
it. And I'm totally so the high tops are high, doesn't matter what shoes you get, you're getting the Losers.
The Losers, yeah.
They're amazingly comfortable.
Yeah.
We've gotten some pretty rave reviews, and I've enjoyed mine. I've already got mine dirty. I'm like, crap, do I need to buy another pair? Or do I wash these? Like,
yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but it is fun. It's fun to do that. But
yep.
Okay, so I was able to go to Chicago. Josh was not. Now, I definitely want to give a shout out to the Winter Kids, and so Josh, go ahead and tell people how the Winter Kids got to come to Chicago with us. Go ahead, you take it.
So I wasn't able to attend, so I made an agreement to. I got to pick one show to go to, and unfortunately, I didn't make it to either one of them because.
Well, okay, it didn't work out timing. You had a vacation with your family.
Exactly. And so it's funny. I won't give the whole long story of that, but yes, exactly. I had a vacation with my family. It just happened to land the day I left for the vacation was the day for the Kong.
Yep.
So we have told you guys about our Patreon. And if you are in the Winter Kid tier, the top tier, you are automatically entered for a chance to join us on media days where they allow us to have guests. Where I wasn't going, we only had 2 Winter Kids. And so I reached out.
So far.
Yeah, so far. I reached out to Zach and I said, Zach, where I'm not coming, can we just bring the other one as a guest and he can have my ticket essentially? And he's like, yeah, this time. Let's do it this time and see how it works out. So Mike and Alan, our Winter Kids, we told them both, said, you're both getting to join us. And then Scott had the great idea of, you know what, they're joining us. Why don't we give them some shirts too? So you got them the new 8-bit Loser Kid shirts.
I got the 8-bit shirts, yeah.
So how did that go? That's how I want to know. How did that go? Meeting some friends of the podcast.
They were so nice. And this is also, as you know, Patreon is just a way that we can help support the podcast. Josh and I put in a lot of our own funds to do this stuff and take time off work and also travel to do media events. So there is a cost associated with that. So this was a way of allowing people to come. So we asked them to donate some money toward the show, and they both donated. So we definitely appreciate that.
Yep.
But that definitely keeps it certainly doesn't pay for the show so far, but it keeps things going. Now, the Patreon, by the way, if you guys are interested in giving us ideas for what would make you want to subscribe to Patreon, let us know. I mean, is it I know some people do calls, they do chats, they do something, monthly. Or I'm interested to know what would make you interested in throwing a few bucks to support the show. Because I think that would really help us out and help you out too, because you get more of what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So we contacted them. They both, I flew in the night before, got in about 1 a.m., checked into the hotel that's right across the street from Stern, and I went to sleep. And then the morning I got up, got ready, and met both of them, Mike and Alan, and then we went over to Stern. And Stern, there was a lot of people there, so it was really nice. You go and check in and go in, and we immediately sat down in the big front room. So if you haven't been to Stern, I highly recommend. They've done such a good job of setting it up that they have in the big entry room, they have lines of games. So there's a lot of games, and I'll get to the games that I haven't played much of because they have them there. So they get up, and then Gomez gets up and Elwin gets up, and they talk about Kong, and they talk about how the game came about. Interesting, because we were joking about it a little behind the scenes. We're like, oh, well, Keith did Godzilla. Keith is the monster guy, so obviously he's going to do King Kong. Well, that wasn't immediately actually in the cards. But when Godzilla became such a huge hit, Gomez went over to Keith and was like, okay, so you're doing Kong now, right? And Keith was like, no, no, I think I'm good. Let's try something else. But Gomez persisted on him for 4 days. And so Keith's like, okay, all right, I'll go ahead and do Kong. And this could not have been a better fit for a game, for a designer, and also a perfect companion match to Godzilla. So I've talked to Josh a little behind the scenes, and we'll talk a little bit more about his thoughts on King Kong. But I truly believe if King Kong and Godzilla were released simultaneously at the same time, such as when Guns N' Roses did Use Your Illusion 1 or Use Your Illusion 2, I think you would have sold an equal amount of Kong and Godzilla. I truly believe this game is that good because it has the thing that makes Elwin so great is he's able to create long ball paths that are connected with multiple shots. That, it's high velocity ball moving that you are controlling and interacting with. And at the same time, having those high end rule sets that connect with tournament players.
Yeah.
So it's kind of all along the spectrum. Borg is such a great designer. He can also be very punishing for an entry level player. So Elwin has a way of actually kind of welcoming the entry level player in without completely over rewarding them with a high score. You have to know the rules to score high on Elwin.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
So that was that entering in. Now we also had by the way, this is me talking a lot. So Josh, any questions up to this point? What are your thoughts, questions? What are you thinking?
So you got in there, they kind of told you about Kong.
Mm-hmm.
I know in times before when we go, they kind of divvy up into groups, and they only let somebody go back because they all want everyone to experience it and have time on the game. Was it kind of the same situation? Did you do the factory tour first? How did it all go?
You're right. They did divide us into two main groups, and one was we walked the line and did the tour. And I went with Kyle, so that's what I did first. And by the way, if you haven't met Kyle, he's awesome.
Kyle
awesome.
Spiteri, right?
What was that?
It's Kyle Spiteri, right? Really tall dude.
Yeah, tall dude.
Yeah,
tall dude. And he so he took us on the tour, and it is really fun watching the line go, because when the line is in full mood, you're seeing all the different mechanisms that are going into the game. And Now, a couple interesting things is Kong doesn't have any pop bumpers. But here's
Means
my
they're
question,
cheap,
Josh.
right? They're
Yeah,
cheaping out.
exactly. Yeah. There were some people who were talking about pulling stuff out, but pop bumpers, like I've never gone up to a game and said it has the most amazing pop bumpers ever. Like pop bumpers are basically time extenders. It's this, hey, you get it up there and it bounces around a little bit and probably adds 10 seconds to your game, and people feel like something's doing a lot, but when really it's not doing much.
When I first was into pinball, first
Yeah,
couple years of pinball, I actually loved pop bumper nests. And
sure.
from a competitive standpoint, I know it's kind of boring, but like when you start a multi-ball and you get a ball up in the pop bumper nest,
Yeah.
that gives you more time on a single ball, but you're still getting points. The other thing too, I really loved at that point in time when I first started, modes that incorporated pop bumper nests, like the mummy from Monster Bash.
Yeah.
You have to hit so many pop bumpers and then
Yep.
it starts the mummy, right?
Yep.
As time has went on, it's kind of something I avoid now. It's not my favorite thing,
Right.
but I can see where people can love bumper nests from a perspective of maybe a newbie or a novice that gets points from that, and it's not hard to get up into those and stay inside of them.
There are things about pop bumpers that you can integrate in interesting ways. So I'll give you Iron Maiden, the shot through the pop bumpers. That's a hard shot. It's not easy to get up there. And so there can be some danger, some challenge. Godzilla, that pop bumper down on the lower right, that can be a dangerous pop bumper. Like you
Yeah.
can actually hit that and it can drain your ball. And it
I would
provides
argue a well-placed pop bumper is awesome, but pop bumper nests are kind of a thing of the past.
yes. Yeah. I would say that too. So he didn't put that in, but there are, some amazing paths. If you look at the playfield, it is divided somewhat. On the left side, it feels a lot more jungle, a lot more organic. There is a river shot over there, which is really fun because it has a diverter that will bring the ball over to an upper flipper. But sometimes that diverter can be down too. And it actually takes the ball down the river on the left and it actually cuts across the out lane and gets into your left flipper. So a little, it is a little weird at first to get used to that, just because when you typically think of the out lane, you don't typically think of a safe lane beyond the out lane. And
So
so
it's kind of similar to Jersey Jack's Pirates of the Caribbean,
yes,
right?
in many ways that vibe is there.
With that in lane, out lane, in lane
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's also, but that upper shot, it's pretty smooth getting that upper shot, because what it can do is it can connect to about 3 or 4 different shots. So if you pull up the playfield and look at it, that upper flippers actually probably it's beyond halfway on the playfield. And it's pretty flat as opposed to a lot of upper flipper shots. If you look at most upper flipper shots, they're angled pretty far down, right? Because
Right.
a lot of times it's kind of associated with like an orbit shot or something. And so it has to have that angle so it can go down to the bottom flipper. But this one's a lot flatter. And what it does is you shoot up to a shot that carries around, and then you can end up on the the right upper flipper, and you can take that too. And so there's about 5 different shots that you can connect to that shot.
So it's kind of like upper flipper to upper flipper where you can kind of crazy 8 back and forth.
You can get some, but I would say if you look at Godzilla, the connection of many Godzilla shots would be you can do left ramp, right ramp, and then you can actually go right back to the left ramp, right? There's also, I mean, sometimes you can do like a left ramp, right ramp. You could do a building shot. You can do the magnet save. You can do the tail whip. So even on Godzilla, there are some levels of connecting multiple shots, but this one takes it to an even extended level. So it's just like you can you can hit so many great balls on the fly without trapping up.
So is the flipper to flipper, is it similar to like the squeeze box combo on Weird Al?
I haven't had enough time on Weird Al to
Okay.
make that call.
Okay.
But it is interesting though that that upper flipper though, it does make it it does make it different. And if you look at the premium, so there is actually a physical ball lock on the premium at /LE, and that's with the trolley car shot, or I'm not sure exactly the subway,
The subway. Yeah. Okay.
yeah, whatever that is. And that's cool. It is a physical ball lock, and so when you get it, Kong can knock it and drop all the balls out of the physical ball lock.
Cool.
Um, Two main differences is if you look at the playfield, on the premium, there is a spider that will grab the ball on the lower left side, and it's activated with a magnet, so it actually slows the ball down. Okay?
Yeah, when we talked to Keith, he's like, "I can't believe I didn't mention this on the podcast. The spider's not on a coil.
Yeah.
It's actually activated by the magnet. The magnet pulls it down and
Yeah.
draws it in."
Yeah, and so it's pretty cool, and it does a little bit of a stop thing. And this is genius. I'm not sure it's intentional, but this is genius because on the premium, you have the ball that grabs it, or the spider that grabs the ball and slows it down a little bit on the left side. But on the right side, you have a gong that's a lot like the AC/DC bell shot. It's more advanced, and it actually does pull up, and you can put balls behind it. But that can be a very dangerous shot, because if you shoot it up there and the gong hits it, it can ricochet back down the middle. So
Gotcha. Okay.
now on the flip side, on the Pro, you don't have that danger on the gong shot, but you don't have the benefit of the spider on the magnet shot. So you're still getting some danger there. It's just a different side of the danger.
Yeah.
Um,
So overall, did you enjoy the game? Like, did you play both Premium and Pro?
I
What did
did.
you think?
Okay, legit. This is definitely, if you like Godzilla, you're gonna like King Kong. It has it now. It is not the same game, and so I don't want you to feel that that I'm just saying if you have one, you don't need the other one. No, it's not the same game, but it has so many elements of high level ball path connectivity that is so good that will make you want to have both. And the way you approach the different games are they are going to be slightly different. And I didn't feel any difference with people are like, oh, it's an unlicensed theme. It's like, well, okay, technically it's a public domain theme, but it is off the book. And so, it is something that is based on something that we all know. Okay.
It's just funny to me because like King Kong is very in the cultural zeitgeist because
Sure.
it's been around forever. I think the iconic Kong climbing the Empire State Building.
Sure.
But the funny part is, I don't know if I've actually, outside of Kong Skull Island, which is not really,
Yeah.
I mean, it is a Kong movie. Don't get me wrong. I didn't see the one with Jack Black. I haven't seen the original black and white.
Yeah.
It's not a theme. It's something that I've always known about because it's been referenced and shown in other cultural aspects
Mm-hmm.
between pop culture and stuff like that. Honestly, it doesn't bother me that it's a public domain license.
Right. Okay. Name one character besides King Kong that is necessary for the story.
The girl.
Okay. But okay, what's the girl's name?
Is it Jane?
Okay.
I don't know.
No, okay, exactly. But that's my point. My point is it's not like saying, hey, you can have the Avengers, but you can't have Iron Man. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you want King Kong and you got the giant gorilla. That's pretty much all you need.
Yeah.
And you can create your storyline with that. So in many ways, it's a very similar approach to the storyline. It does cover it covers the book, but it's almost like, hey, we're still in the King Kong world, like you're in the Jurassic Park world. And you could even argue like, hey, you're in the Godzilla world, because I've never seen any of the Godzilla films other than the new ones, not the Toho ones. I haven't seen, except for maybe it was Godzilla Plus One. That was a Toho one, right?
The -1, yes.
Yeah, the -1. Yeah,
Yep.
But
+1.
Plus
This
one.
is Godzilla. I mean, my +1's King Kong.
and his date, Godzilla and his date. We just, it's how they make more Godzillas. Yeah, but it's if you look at it, I didn't watch any of the Godzilla movies. They're campy, they're fun, but it doesn't take away from the story for me.
Yeah.
So there's nothing thematically that I feel like we are missing by having a public domain theme out of a book that we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, we went on the big tour, able to see cool things underneath the playfield. Afterwards, we came in, and that's when, Keith and Gomez were talking about, the game. They were talking about, how they were integrating that in. And then we got a chance to play it. We also got a chance. I had 15 minutes alone with the game. And I brought both it's Alan and Mike, right?
Yes.
Yeah, brought both Alan and Mike in there. And it was fun. Alan's a really good player, by the way. he was playing a lot. So I was able to watch him play and see a lot of the ball paths and be able to get up close. You definitely will take advantage of this in a home environment. The sound is great. They do have custom animations for this. Now, the LCD is probably the last thing you're going to care about most in a game, right? Most of the time, the LCD, the whole purpose of it is to provide information for your game. And the plus and minus of having an unlicensed game is that you don't really have assets to draw from, as in like, hey, I'm just pulling a movie clip and I'm dropping it in.
Yeah.
So they have their own animations. They have their own ways of doing that stuff in. And so you can look at that and you can like that it's their own animations. You could be disappointed that it's not going to be like movie clips from like Kong versus King versus Godzilla or something like that. But I would say that it's functional. It gets everything done, and that still conveys all the information that you need in the game. But I never really watch an LCD, especially while I'm playing a game.
Yeah.
But if you are going to have a take on it, there are going to be people who are like, hey, I like the Jersey Jack approach, where it's like you are flooded with this giant screen that you're watching the movie, and it has other stuff too, because they approach it differently with the LCD. They make it more of a prominent feature in their games. And so I would argue that Stern games, they tend to take the attitude that the LCD is there to provide information and to do like a quick little animation if something happens, like a ball gets locked or something.
So, did you enjoy King Kong overall?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you? Are you in on one? Is this
Yeah.
a game that you'd consider in on your collection? What?
I'm getting a premium. I know that many people were saying, "Hey, the Pro's good," and I agree with them. I am in the camp that I tend to buy the toppers. I tend to do stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And my attitude is there's enough cool stuff that is functional in the game that the premium offers that the Pro does not, to make it worth it for my money. A couple things that I think are pretty darn cool. The King Kong moves a lot with the premium. It is an integrated animated feature in the game. So he will actually move his arms up and down. I did ask specifically that, hey, we've had issues with toys that have arms that can hold the ball, right? Like the Hulk arms. That's immediately what I was thinking of. The King Kong is so tucked back in the upper right hand side that it would be pretty hard to do that. He actually hits when they start the multi-ball. He hits that trolley cart and tips it, and so it's a cool physical interaction. Also, you can set it. I don't know if it's a default setting or something you add, but he can actually punch the glass with his fist, which is
That's
kind of
really
a fun.
cool.
Yeah, it's kind of a fun thing, right? Unless people really never want their invisible glass touched, but it's just a cool feature. So the physical ball lock, I just think it's cool. It's just again another fun aspect that I like, and the spider down at the bottom and the gong. So the four main things that I would say. But Keith is very good about making sure the pro is a packed pro. If you are a pro buyer, you do not have anything to worry about. Because
Nice.
this thing, it's not like, hey, the major thing's gone from the gameplay. No, actually, the major thing is still pretty there.
So the other question I have too, I don't know. They've only done this. We've only been to Wick, Kong, and Metallica releases.
Okay.
And I know they didn't do this with Metallica. Did they pull aside the media content creators and do, because remember when we went to Wick, we all went into a conference room and they gave us kind of a deep dive of
no. It seemed like with Wick was more of a, hey, this is the approach. You guys ask us how we make games. And so here, let's talk about this. This was it takes 2 years to really get a game. It takes at least a year and a half from when the initial part to release time. And then you also have 6 months of negotiating licensing and all that kind of stuff. So you're basically looking at about 2 years.
So what the reason I bring this up is because there's some information that was given in that meeting that we could talk about, and there was some that wasn't.
And there was nothing. There was nothing that they said, "Hey, don't talk about this."
Yeah.
And by the way, there wasn't anything terrible that they revealed in the other one. This was more of just, hey, we're going to tell you how complex licensing really is. And most of the things that you have questions about as a fan, well, why didn't they do that? Guess what? They had those same questions. And there were some things that they couldn't do because they couldn't get the licensing to line up on it.
So the reason I bring this up is because some of the comments that we've had on this past episode when we recorded with Keith Elwin at 2:30 in the afternoon our time.
Yeah.
Got done by 4:00 our time. I sat down, edited everything down, went back to work, came back while it was all rendering, and uploaded it, got it pushed out and published. And then we recorded the Dune episode at 8:30 our time.
Correct. Yeah.
It was kind of a brain fry because it was definitely drinking from a fire hose.
So much, yeah.
But the point being, going back to the Elwin episode.
Okay.
So he talked about with this being a public domain license, just some of the different challenges that they had. And you had asked something on the financial side, pretty much like, since there's not much of a cost public domain wise, does that mean you get to put more into the game?
Yeah.
And Elwin had said, no, it's kind of like two separate spreadsheets. It's the best way to put it. I know we talk bomb, but then people get, well, what's bomb? And then there's confusion. We're just going to pretend it's spreadsheets, right? So there is a spreadsheet financially for building the game, and there's a spreadsheet financially for licensing. If you run a business, maybe it's fixed costs versus fluctuating costs, stuff like that. And I bring this up because some of the comments were like, well, Stern's just cheaping out on us with the license if they're not giving Ellen more to put into the game because they're not paying as much for a license and whatnot. And one of the things that they had explained to us was because it wouldn't be fair to the other designers as well. Let's say they did do a public domain license, or they did an unlicensed theme, and all that extra cash that would go towards a license was then dumped into a pinball machine.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, when you're comparing Sterns apples to apples, one would look wildly different than the other. And granted, Elwin games do look different.
They do. But it's because he's an expert on ball paths. It's because he really is an expert on the way the kinetic movement of the ball.
Well,
He
also,
moves the ball different than other players, other designers. He really does.
well, and not only that, this is a man that did pinball service and tech work for
Right.
years and years and years. So he also looks at it as like, do we really need to use 6 or 7 different screws when we could use one of the same screw, keep the costs down that way? Like, it is amazing to see how Keith looks at building a game. And he even alluded to this some on
Yeah.
on this episode when he was talking about, I ran out of my coils. Like, I can't use any more spaces or any more stuff on it because we've tapped out every single terminal you can use. That's why you can't use a pop bumper nest, because pop bumper nests use 3 coils.
Yeah.
That's 3 coils that are now not,
Yeah, unless you're tied together like Bond.
or
Yeah.
Jurassic Park Home. But then people
Yeah,
complain like,
exactly.
"Oh yeah,
Yeah.
look, they're all tied together. That's how cheap they
Yeah.
are."
No,
So it's just
it's
really
just
funny to
yeah.
me. It's just really
Yeah.
funny to me. But you know, you can be keyboard warriors all you want. You got to give a little bit of a break. I get the prices are high on pinball machines right now. I get
Mhm.
that things in the used market are down. I just to use justification of saying, hey, like Stern cheaped out by doing an unlicensed
Right.
theme or a public domain theme, and they're just trying to make an extra buck. I don't think that's the case. Maybe it is. I don't know, but like
Well, okay, here's the bottom line. What is Stern's main job? If you were
to
owning
make money,
Stern as a company,
yeah,
what is your overall goal?
to make money,
You want to make money. And you want, I've always said it before. The first time I met Steve Ritchie, how he introduced himself in the seminar was, I'm Steve Ritchie and I sell pinball machines.
yeah,
Specifically, sell
so
pinball machines.
yeah,
And they have a big factory. Now, if you look at it in the overall scheme, do you want the monster licenses to gain access to people? Of course you do.
yeah,
Of course you do. You want these things that you want things like the Matrix. You want you don't want bands. You don't want the dad rock bands that the people who are buying pinball machines want to buy. So you're going to be going after these licenses. However, it is also counter to their overall goal to make a good machine every time if they penalized a designer for giving them an elite license,
yeah,
right? If the license costs so much that all you had was a single pop bumper in the middle of the playfield and 2 flippers, you're not going to want to do the license.
yeah.
And so it's this walk that they definitely have to figure out. Okay, so we are going to have a licensing budget for our entire company, and we are going to have a build budget for each game. And the hope is that each game is going to provide an equivalent value for
Yeah.
what you're going to see.
Well, kind of what I was trying to get to at is, so we had a couple complaints of people like, why didn't you grill Keith more on price? Like, why didn't you grill more on like the BOM and stuff like that? And here's the reality of the situation. We can ask Keith those questions. He can't answer because he doesn't know. So when you're a
Okay,
designer, so there's two different departments. There's actually a couple more than 2 departments, but
right,
there's a financial department and there is a design department. The game designers, they might have some clue of what goes in
sure,
cost wise,
yeah.
but if we're going to ask those questions, we're going to do it with Seth Davis on. We're going to do it with
That's a
George
Seth Davis
Gomez.
question. That's a George
Yeah,
Gomez question. Yeah,
like Keith
that's
Owen. If I ask him that, he's going to be like, I can't talk
well,
about that, and I don't have as much
it's
detail on it that I can give anyway.
yeah.
So to those that ask, like, why didn't you ask more about price? The dude makes the game. Like, he doesn't
He's the
deal with.
designer. Yeah,
Didn't he call them the bean counters on our episode?
yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's
the
like,
bean counters wanted to take this out, and it's like, well, I already added a rule for that.
yeah.
Now,
If anything, he's fighting the
yeah,
financial people to keep stuff in. So
right. However, I will argue, and this is okay in my own main job. Okay, there are tons of problems with healthcare and costs. I totally get it. Okay, but the bottom line is there are healthcare organizations that have gone under because they have not been financially solvent. Okay, so Stern is going to be the same way. Like, they want their design team to be focusing on designing, and they give them a budget that they can work with and says, we have already analyzed our production, we've already projected our sales, and this is what we are going to do, and we have this amount. Now, they have also increased the BOM, and it does show, by the way. I don't see what people are saying when they think they're cheapening out, because if you look at the presentation of the game now, it is more impressive. Yeah, are there ways that have increased the presentation and also decreased costs? Absolutely. Being able to do LED bulbs, like LED bulbs are actually they're cheaper to manufacture than incandescent, and you can do them in a better integrated way. The LCD screen is actually cheaper than the DMD. It's cheaper because it's more of a mass produced product. I don't know of anybody who's like, wow, I really wish they'd start making DMD games again, because that shows they're spending more money on the games.
Yeah.
This is how it is. But you are 100% right. Those the industry questions are questions we will ask Gomez. We are going to ask Seth Davis, and I actually did see Seth Davis, by the way, and I talked to him about, hey, your episode with us was great. We had so many people who liked hearing your philosophy on behind the scenes of how to steer a pinball company. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're able to get him back on and talk a little bit more, probably between games. That seems like a more in between games interview.
Definitely. And I'd be more than happy to have. Seth is a great guy. Yeah. And granted, I am only taking, honestly, like there's 5 or 6 comments out of the hundreds that we receive.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much more comments we've been receiving over the last year.
Yeah.
Like I said, it just the growth has been exponential, and I'm shocked at how many people actually want to listen to us.
Yeah. Well, okay, I'm more of relieved that we're doing something like it's Friday night and it's 10:40, and this is what we're talking about, or Saturday night, excuse me. Yeah,
so one of those nights. It's
one of those nights.
It's been a long day. Yeah, but no. So overall, you're getting a Kong. I will get a Kong too if someone will buy my Foo Fighters. That's
who wants a Foo Fighters? Yeah,
Foo Fighters Pro. Come on,
yeah,
they're up. It's up for sale.
Okay, what are you interested in? Are you interested in a premium or a pro? Because I would argue, Josh, you could be satisfied with either.
So if I have to choose between a pro or a premium, I really think the premium is the way to go. I just think I'm a unique player in the fact that like I do like competitive play, I do like faster games and stuff like that, but I also like games that I can explore and enjoy moments. And Keith Elwin seems to make moments in his games, and they don't seem to hang up the game. And I guess you could argue that with Godzilla in the building, right? Like that's obviously when you get all 3 balls up there, it kind of sticks, right? Like you're gonna have to wait for that building to come down. But overall, I think the premium's the way to go on this. You played them both. Which one do you think is the way to go, Scott?
You could be totally solid with getting a pro. If you're the type that I just want the biggest bargain for the bang, the pro is the way to go, because you're going to get all the ball paths. You're going to get all the functionality of the game. You're going to essentially the same rule set. If you like having the extra stuff, I tend to like the extra stuff. I buy the toppers. I don't buy every accessory for the game, but there are things that make it cool enough that I'm willing to spend that money for it. So the premium is mine because I like the mechanical gorilla that moves around and I don't know, is Kong a gorilla? I think he's a gorilla.
I think so too.
But it moves around. It provides something that's the interactivity of the game. It's it's like Jurassic Park. People like having the dinosaur that moves side to side and up and down. And you could argue the same thing with like actually this is a good analogy. Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, the Pro is a great game. It actually has many of the things that you're going to look for. The premium, the dragon goes up and down and side to side. In the Pro, it just goes up and down, but it's still a really cool effect, right?
Yep.
And so if you're willing to say, no, I'm willing to pay the extra money, if you're the type that's going to buy any sort of mod for this, if you're going to buy something that's like $500, like an illuminated, I don't know, an illuminated Kong Hunter van or something, and you're going to put it in the game, just pay the money and get the premium, because it actually provides functional eye candy that is designed for the game. But you could, I am not going to, I'm not going to criticize anybody for going the pro, because I think the pro is still fun. And quite honestly, I played more of the pro during the event because there was a longer line for the premium. And so I had a great time.
So I really think if I do, like I said, I want the premium, but the thing I need to do is sell my Foo Fighters Pro.
Okay.
So if anyone out there wants a Foo Fighters Pro, hit me up. I definitely want. I want to trade it out.
Home use only. It's great. It's great condition. Yeah.
One was hilarious too. So like you and I have talked about this, and you're like, well, if you really want Kong, I know someone that wants your Shadow, but I'm like, it's Shadow.
Yeah.
It comes to that. It's the hard part, right? Like,
yeah,
we've talked about this before. You're like, well, they're still making Foo Fighters, or they're kind of vault, putting them in the vault or whatever it is. You can still get a Foo Fighter.
But it's still available. Like,
it's still available.
There are more Foo Fighters on the market than there are Shadows.
Yeah.
And this is the supply and demand curve. And we've talked about it before that, the people who are concerned about the secondary market, that's kind of a victim of the success of being able to sell a lot of games. Because if you have the potential of more games that will go out on the secondary market, then you're going to be competing with different people for pricing. If you are the only person who bought that one, if you have Pinball Circus and you're going to sell it, you're going to command a bigger price than a Foo Fighters Pro.
Yeah.
And I would argue a Foo Fighters Pro is a much better game.
Exactly.
Right. And so it's just, it is what it is. This is the reality of being in a business hobby that has a lot of supply out there. And you're right. We are coming down from COVID. Maybe some people are unloading some extra games, but it's still, in the grand scheme of things, making $1,000, maybe even $2,000 hit. If you've had it for a long time, I guess I would still say that's still entertainment value there. Yeah. If you go out to a bar, a typical person is going to spend $50 at a bar in a night. And so if you have it for a year and you've been able to get 20 uses out of it for a night, you've actually paid for it and had a better environment to hear everything than you would have by going to a bar.
Well, it's funny too, because so at my house, my games are kind of on a totem pole, right?
Yeah.
And maybe this is like everyone else's, and everyone looks at the bottom like, what's going out for the next thing to come in, right?
Yeah.
And so Foo's on the bottom, at least out of all the games I have. Besides, it's funny because my kids are like, well, do we have to get rid of Foo Fighters? Why don't we get rid of the orange one? I'm like, well, that one's Scott's, so we can't sell
Genie.
that one.
Yeah, you can sell the Genie. Go ahead.
Genie. And then I have a Riviera in the corner, which is 1971. Yeah. It's an EM. Mm-hmm. And I told the kids, like, that's not going to work. Like, we could sell it, but it's not. We don't get King Kong at that point either.
Yeah, so. Don't sell your car, Dad. Sell your bicycle and buy a new car.
Exactly. You know what? And if everyone could do that, they would, right?
It's not going to work, yeah.
But no, that's kind of the situation. So yeah, if you want a Foo Fighters Pro, 1,300 plays, wonderful game. Like I said, it really is a great playing game, and the code is amazing. Raymond Davidson is amazing at code. Like he's.
I'm calling it now. Raymond is on track to be a Lyman Sheets level coder, because he does think on that next level. He knows how to make a game fun for me. I'm not a tournament player, but he also knows how to make a game rewarding for the tournament players. So if you know the rules and you know what you're going to do, you're going to score higher, and significantly higher than your average, chimp flipper hacker.
I think the problem with code 2 is you got to find a good balance versus feeling rewarded, right?
Yeah. You don't want wood chopping. You don't want wood chopping. You need some sort of way of blowing up the game. And you also need to be able to find ways that doesn't lock you into one path.
Yeah.
That is the magic. And I would say that Raymond is certainly well on his way to being an elite coder.
One thing that Elwin does that I'm surprised, I don't think anyone else has adopted this, and maybe I'm just wrong, but Elwin has something going on in the background of all of his games. With Iron Maiden, it's doing like the power triangles.
Yeah.
Jaws, it's the reeling in the shark.
Yep.
It's the bounty hunts. With Godzilla, it's doing the power ups. I think that's a great way to take a wood chopping element and stick it in the background so you're still doing it without feeling like I am forced to do this. It just happens naturally, right? And I wish more people would integrate that with their games.
If you look at most successful long-term shows,
Yeah.
they have an A plot and a B plot. They actually do. So if you haven't ever thought about it like that, once I tell you this, you can't unsee it, because they will have parallel plots going, but one of them, an hour show is like 42 minutes. So one story will take about 30 minutes and the other story is like 12 minutes. But it is spliced in there. And so sometimes the A story and the B story also have some interactivity, but for the most part, they're kind of parallel stories. Yeah. And so when coding is able to have an A goal and a B goal, then absolutely you're going to be, and yes, I did say B goal on that, but yes. So if you can have two things you're working for simultaneously, that's where the magic happens.
Well, I'm going to wrap this up, Scott. One thing that I have forgot to mention that we were both going to talk about this episode, we'll just do it really quickly. We want to congratulate Colin McAlpine. So apparently this man worked on Portal.
Yep.
He has now worked on Dune.
Mm-hmm.
I hear he did some work on King Kong. Really? And really? Then I hear he might be associated with a Jersey Jack game coming out and maybe even an American game. I hear that man is everywhere when it comes to creating games for pinball companies.
The problem with Colin is he is genuinely one of the nicest people that you've ever met. And he is a high level player and also is super committed to his family and has everything balanced right. I want to be, the world would be better with more Collins in there.
I just want to razz a little bit. So there were some misconceptions, some misinformation that Colin had worked on Dune. Colin is not working on Dune. Colin worked on Portal from Multimorphic. He is not associated with Barrels of Fun at this point.
But he may want to play it.
Maybe he does want to go in and play. Maybe that's where the misconception. Maybe he went to Media Day and they just, I don't know. But yeah, he just wanted us to let everyone know he is not associated with Dune.
He's also starting his own pinball company.
Yes.
And he is looking for employees. So go ahead and hit him up.
Colin's Pinballs. Love the name of the company.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to sell billions.
Call balls. Yeah.
Call balls. That man has balls of steel.
Balls of steel. Yeah.
Alrighty. Anything else before we wrap this up, Scott?
I'm just, if you didn't see my picture, I did get home a Sparky. So old school Sparky, nice. Dirty Donnie.
Yep.
So that's fun. It's going over into my pinball menagerie. So great. Wrapping things up. Great stuff on Silverball Swag again. Check it out. We have new stuff. And thanks again for listening. We'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, if you want to get a hold of us, we are loserkidpinballpodcast@gmail.com. We are on all the socials at loserkidpinball is how you find us. Like Scott alluded to, silverballswag.com/loserkid. Got plenty of great stuff there. And our friends at Flippin' Out Pinball. If you want that new King Kong, Dune, or pretty much any other game you can think or fathom of, give Zach and Nicole Many a call or text or email them. They are amazing at responding and customer service. Give us our last word, Scott.
I want to know what our audience is buying. If they're buying a Pro or a Premium Kong, or if you're going to get the LE, tell us what you like about the LE.
Or if you're getting a Dune.
Yeah, okay, sure. But we were talking about Kong recently, so we will definitely do a follow-up episode on Dune when we have a chance to play it. I didn't get my hands on it this weekend, so.
Yep, true. All righty.